development seminar this morning, and the great point that an African gentleman made was, when you're buying proprietary software, you're getting development money to send development money back to the north to buy the software. But with open source, you're training people locally and paying them. So it's it increases the penetration of the development dollars, which has a lot of perks to the donors, et cetera, et cetera. So I mean, I don't know if you could. You might have to have a two-week conference to really train everyone.
Well, but practical aspects of open source.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's
At that time, in 2 years, what is the open source that's going to be? Because that question came up in Nick's workshop, which is it feasible to take Linux and then have anything in your office that's running on top of it? How do you do that?
yeah, how's it useful to?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some amazing, the customization of that is the power, and when you can deliver the basic package to Malaysia and then it gets distributed into a rural network to monitor agricultural prices that then get pushed out to people's phones. I mean, it's pretty great stuff. But I mean, yeah, there's that technical know-how gap, and turning this conference into at least featuring classes like that would also, I mean, it would be good to involve the Smithsonian folks, and I know a couple other people over there that help do the Summit Institutes, because that's their, that's.
And what were they teaching? Was it software, or what was it?
No, it was a lot of best practices in ICTs for development, how different NGOs around the world have used it. I really only went to, I sat in on 2 of them, and it was less. There were less classes this time in Johannesburg than in Johannesburg last year, but it was whatever they could find instructors for, GIS, remote sensing, whatever they could secure an instructor for and get them to the summit. I mean, the students just didn't stop coming, and it was really interesting because Colin Powell toured the summit last year, or toured the U.S. activities there. And he was at he went to the Summit Institute class, and he or someone else asked, how many of you would do this again if you had a chance? And there were like 30 students in the class, and every single one of them raised their hand. And it was just like, it was kind of the shining example for U.S. involvement in that summit, at least.
So what you're suggesting is that we have some sessions where actually there's training involved.
Yeah,
some of the scholars. We're planning on not necessarily bringing students, but bring in scholars, young scholars, who are actively doing research in their field and actually training them how they can use this technology to help their research.
You know what happens? I certainly know on people from the U.S. and Western Europe, as a lot of professors arrive with students in tow.
Yeah.
You may qualify that. I don't know if that happens in in developing countries, but often it's actually you invest in the younger people, right? Who are earlier in their career. All the ISOC internet training was always people in their 20s. Well, now they're in their 30s or their 40s, and they're running companies, and they're often in significant positions. But it might be just getting, okay, the director of your institute is coming. Have him bring 1 or 2 or 3 students, and the students are off doing the workshops, and the head honchos more in the conference.
Yeah, I'm sure you won't be able to avoid the students showing up.
No, that's the question. In terms of funding, will we fund such?
Well, maybe
will we fund such
Smithsonian
people?
maybe the Smithsonian, just given the invitation, would fund its own thing.
Oh, like the Smithsonian?
Or somebody like that.
I think it would be, yeah, I mean, it's it would be worth.
Pretty soon you're going to be filming yourself.
We're trying to avoid that. Didn't work the first time, so I'm taking a back seat.
I mean, it would definitely be worth a feel or two.
So you're saying that maybe get funds from Smithsonian to put this on, which of course would benefit scholars too, but students to fund students.
Yeah. Essentially, it would you would want to involve them in this one way or another, and then see if they showed up with their own funds.
Yeah, you could just say, this is the hotel we're in, these are the people we're targeting, no one's reserved the neighboring hotel yet.
Right.
And we could have joint mailers, that's as much investment.
Well, these classes, I mean, they like in PAL Expo, they all took place in conference room 11, right in the main exhibit hall. So I mean, they really, it was in Johannesburg last year. They had them in a separate college, but that was a very distributed event, so people were used to finding transportation around town, but I think they like it this year better when they're, you know, literally right there and people can wander by and stop in.
You know, you could have the students pre-identified from each country and make sure that the developing countries are bringing their students and the developed countries are bringing theirs, and get them in touch with each other and let them instant message.
Get them in the class, yeah.
You know, let them
Yeah,
develop
that's
a
good.
relationship and then see each other when they get there.
Right.
It's
And
kind of like
leapfrog
the
the whole-
teenagers are
yeah.
doing now.
What we maybe can use
Networking
this,
independent of
Mondial
the
platform.
mentor.
Is the what?
The Mondial, I don't know if I was talking about it or not. This is UNESCO Democratic Partnership. In fact, it's to the universities, students, young people, promoting the cultural dialogue. Well, there are 20 awards for $13,000, but this is to enhance young students to provide projects for the main development goals. I think it's maybe we can link it somehow. That's I think a pretty good idea.
They're the future.
And now it just
Now,
starts, so
I was thinking we were going to drink these wines in parallel, not in cereal.
It's fine though, I'm cereal because,
I guess we'll have the, you know,
pretty well developed. So
Is this my glass of water? Or is this-
no,
no, the water. This is, there's a glass of water sitting in front of me. Is this, did someone pour this for me or is it a leftover?
Like young scientists getting this served and then coming and meeting it. That'd be a cool idea.
Just remember it's Smithsonian. It would be best to involve Smithsonian as soon as possible.
Can you talk to them?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure the gentleman I used to deal with there is still actively involved because he hasn't emailed me back yet, but I know a few of the folks involved with it, so. And it's really, you know, it's the US government is, you know, really likes it simply because it's one of these action, not words ideas that they're pushing.
And they have a program like that already.
Yeah, it's called the Summit Institute for Sustainable Development.
how'd they deal with the language issue in terms of like having students that don't speak English? Do they have instructors that can teach
I
them
think
French or?
I think it's predominantly been English. to my
It's predominantly English.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about other languages.
And where do they bring them from? What's their array of countries to pick them, and how do they select them? You know?
No. I know, well, I mean, AAAS was contacted prior to Johannesburg about what we may be able to offer. And at the time, we were going through internal turmoil like you wouldn't believe, so we had nothing to offer at the time. But I mean, they literally, you know, it's an all-points bulletin. You know, who out there is going to be at the summit anyway? Who would be willing to give a, you know, half an hour or an hour-long talk, you know, or lead a class on this issue, and then it just propagates from there. You know, the initial.
The selection of the students, I mean, how do they, because the students aren't going to be anywhere at the summit. Postgraduate researchers from a developing country are never going to afford to come to a summit.
Well, I mean, because it's not necessarily just young students. It's open to anybody basically.
So researchers.
Yeah.
as well.
So you get a wide range of ages and experience.
But still, I mean, you look at this summit, and were you at the RSIS just before?
No.
For the RSIS, the RSIS in particular, there were no young people, period.
Really?
And in this summit here, there were no young people from developing nations. The few that there were that I met, that I spoke to, like, what was the guy in our meeting this morning? Joel is here because his wife just got a job at the United Nations, something or other here, and so he's here, but,
He
you know.
just graduated and he's looking for a job.
Right, but researchers from the South cannot afford to
Yeah. That's,
travel here.
I mean, with South Africa, there were just so many people there that I mean, it was been, you know, if I had to guess, 85% of the students were probably South Africans.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty local. I mean, in Tunisia, maybe you'll get North Africa primarily as a region. So people
Right.
within car or train distance, and maybe not.
Our
long
interest
flights.
is much more
But that's gonna be
global
French.
than that.
Well, so then maybe someone would be willing to.
Fund it.
Well, that.
You talked about UNESCO scholarships, maybe somebody else would be able to offer some sort of scholarship to
Well,
For the term.
I can only speak
fund
from
travel.
my experience of it, but scholarships are always pretty well defined and focused. And in this case, if they're research scholarships or fellowships, the ones that we run anyway, they're always for a minimum of whatever, 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, or you have to be getting your PhD at the end of it, or whatever. There's also, we, for instance, do not provide anything that I know of to bring people just to attend a conference, other than maybe through some completely different funding for some of the high-level researchers.
I know a guy who did it. I can offer one model that I know, and it's only one, which is the Internet Society, which did it for a few years. I don't know where they got their money from. Maybe it was corporate money. But they, I mean, I met the Chinese people, the Latin American people, the African people. So the Ghana Internet, you know, is a product of that. I met the person who was running the Internet in Beijing. She went through that training. All these people did. So there's at least one model, both for funding, I don't know what it was, plus how to teach them how to disseminate this stuff. So.
Well, a lot of it would likely happen through professional societies as well. You could reach out to them. For example, I work with the Society for Conservation GIS, which has, you know, their members pay dues to be part of the organization. They have an annual meeting, and then out of that kitty of money they have from the dues, they bring about 10 or 15 international attendees to take classes and to take part in the annual meeting. So I mean, if you could get 5 or 10 from each professional society out there, it'd be absolutely overwhelming.
Indeed, overwhelming is the term.
But and NSF also is, as far as I understand, ramping up their travel grants. AAAS, for example, administers the Women in International Scientific Cooperation travel grants, which is to build bridges between women scientists to just kind of supplement their existing activities by giving them an opportunity to travel to further their research, stuff like that. So I mean, that might be a way to, if there's a way to subvert that for our purposes.
You know, and I actually would say some of the stuff we're talking about here, I almost say these are great ideas, but maybe Wes won't be doing all this stuff. It might be just building a few strategic partnerships and trying to convince the Smithsonian to invest a whole lot of their energy in it, or find somebody from the Internet Society. And I know the guy who, George Sadowski, did all these things 10 years ago or 5 years ago, trying to get him to be very entrepreneurial and do it alongside what we're talking about here.
Right, but I think the core, you know, the core purpose and the core product and the core output is what really, you know, you have to come up with that in order to attract all this other involvement. And, you know, the classes to the side are great and all, but without that, you know, really hard-hitting central activity, which provides the whammy, then, you know, it would be, people might agree, but not until six months before this thing starts, and then that doesn't do you much good. So.
I think,
Well, perhaps the idea of Wes going around to each funding agency and trying to get funds or trying to arrange inside your own, maybe it needs to be broader than that. Maybe your responsibility needs, and then maybe your original purpose.
Decentralization is a key word.
Distributed networks.
Yeah, where more people take on various responsibilities.
Well, I mean, from CERN's point of view, was there, I mean, I just glanced through this, and there are some recommendations for action, for you know, outputting of RSIS. Is there a way to, you know, pick up that ball and run with it, essentially? You know, the next one will, you know, will report on progress of this, or will...
well, I think Carter made a couple interesting points that were maybe not foremost in my mind until he said them, and one was that the, you know, they were doing declarations, wording, making suggestions. CERN was very upset that CERN was not mentioned in the statement by such and such, and the editorial and such, but the point was that if this summit was about doing declarations and plans of action, even though we don't know what the next summit is going to do, it's probably not going to be more declarations and plans of action.
Right.
Strictly speaking, this thing is supposed to report on programs and activities that were done between Geneva and Tunis. Now, from the kinds of activities that CERN and the World Forum did, what CERN did was to just state a lot of generalities that most of us would agree with if you read that thing. There's just nothing objectionable about it.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
true.
And it's all great, and we should do it. And to some extent, they got some of that language, not now, but in an earlier phase, they got it into the Declaration and Plan of Action. And there's a section on e-science. In fact, the name of my film is what is it? A commentary on paragraphs 7, 10, and 23 of the Plan of Action. That's the,
Oh, that's catchy.
well,
Here's the shorter name.
7, 10, 20.
That's the full name, but the shorter name is.
That was
He's
the-
our red
Subtitle.
no, Hans, that was the original name of the film. The original name of the film was 7, 10, 23.
Oh, yeah?
And then it became
I like that, I like that.
Before the Horse, that's the name, Before the Horse. And then, but it's a commentary on those paragraphs, because those are where science and engineering are mentioned, that's where they're focused, that's talking about building infrastructure and doing e-science and so forth. But there are no programs, meaning targeted efforts involving money, that are attached to those things.
Mhm.
So, the approach that the Forum on Engineering the Knowledge Society took was just to say, they had about, let's see, I filmed about maybe 9 speeches this morning that just had, here's what we're doing, here's what we're doing, and then they're sort of claiming those programs. Well, some of them actually are not programs, they're just, this is what would be good to do, but others of them are, we're working in a rural community to provide e-education through a radio link.
Mhm.
But those are programs that are going, it's not like a new program.
Mhm.
So, I don't know what they're going to do for follow-up in Tunis. They're welcome to do it. If what they do is to say, well, this is what this program did, it's okay, but it was nothing that was designed as a result of this summit.
Yeah, it was
It's just an
already.
ongoing thing. And what CERN will have done, since they didn't propose any activities or fund them, it's not clear to me either. But they'll have some follow-up sessions. I think that it's the 2-year window. Some people have said it's good, because people can't forget that we're doing Tunis. Whereas with Rio and then later Johannesburg, it was a 10-year gap. Nobody knew Johannesburg was planned when Rio happened.
Mhm.
It's a long time, but a lot will have happened, so there's a lot to do, a lot to say about sustainable development.
Mhm.
In this case, we're really in a different situation. It's impossible to plan, fund, execute, and implement and evaluate a program between now and Tunis. Flat out.
Well, I'm just looking at this as you're speaking that way about it. But in my mind, if the purpose is really to focus on the evolution between 2003 and 2005, then just about everything we've spoken about so far can be canned, because whether it's grid computing or whether it's any other number of things, isn't specifically benchmarked right now so enough that we could say, well, between now and then this is what happened. However, just taking a quick glance at the essential points that Mayani mentioned, ICTs promote dissemination of health information, enhance capacity building, and permit telemedicine. Telemedicine is an area where just this morning there was a lady in our group who was from South Africa, Ministry of Health or something like that, but who was directly addressing that issue. She can't get funding to do the kind of impact studies that would justify to her government investing in telemedicine. So that's something that's very strongly there, and whether this declaration that is somehow linked to this set of things will have evolved or not is one thing to follow. Another one is the need for accurate, local, and timely information on environmental issues. There again, I mean, it's easy enough to say, well, right now, let's see how many research institutions are monitoring environmental issues. Let's see how many of them are monitoring them within 2 years, and get these people to come in and say, well, this is how the World Summit Declaration changed our plans, or whatever. Our government all of a sudden gave us a whole bunch of money so that we could do this, or some other option, or we didn't do anything because it was absolutely irrelevant. We never had the funding for it to begin with. And then the other one was the scientists that need to engage in the policy arena, and that's very much what I've been saying on behalf of TWAS for a while, getting a kind of a meeting where you bring in science, policy makers together, but there's a couple of things in there, I think, that we could set as benchmarks. But that's different from having classes where you bring some expert to teach some students about something. And I'm not sure that in 3 days with a total of 200 people, there's room to do everything we've talked about.
Well, just to get back to Rick's point on decentralization, it's that, you know, if we take what Mohammed was suggesting, I kind of like it, but laying awake at 3:30 in the morning last night, I had one kind of deviant idea to add to it, which was Mohammed was saying, look, you know, the way to do this is to take the main partners, which are, you know, the sort of organizations that have been involved so far, and to, together with the newcomers, whoever they are, design 3 or 4 major plenaries. It's a 3-day meeting, so you can't keep people in plenaries all the time. They've got to be limited somehow. We got to see how big the hotel is, because it's a physical constraint to see the number of rooms available. And then we decentralize the session planning, so if AAAS wants to do something, or Smithsonian, or UNESCO, or OECD, or the African Virtual University, as long as they can give us some participants, then we'll be happy to incorporate that in the program. It's got to fit. But we don't, as the program planners, kind of micromanage who do you invite, what are the papers, okay? But then my kind of devious idea was, why not just go ahead, and when we open the web, we got a website, by the way, and
Great.
It's on film now. Just want to let you know that we have a website and we've had it on film now. So. And it's an okay for
Thank you for your
outgoing NSF program manager. He confirms this.
You know, it can be registration and all those other functions that one would normally expect, but it could also be an actual open submission thing, as long as it were understood that I'm sensitive because 4S accepts all papers. 4S is, as a society, the Society for Social Studies of Science, our policy is basically to accept, we accept 99% of papers that are submitted. You know, we accept almost everything.
And
I was so proud that my paper was accepted.
Yeah.
I told my mother.
99% of the paper?
No, just to present a paper at a meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just to present the paper, because people need money to come to the conference, and we don't like to reject stuff, you know. So, but this can't be that way. It would be like accept 1% rather than 99%, because then you could leave it open. We would just have to take a pretty hard line on, you know, everybody doesn't get accepted, but please submit your idea. Say you're going to write a paper, and if we can fit it into a thematic session, we would. You know, but not very many papers would get accepted that way. I mean, that's kind of weird for a summit type event, but we could at least open it up a little that way.
So is what you're saying that then the objective is to create a format for the exchange of information between various people. But basically the objective is creating this format. It's not really, it doesn't really have to do with delivery of information and, you know, certain outcomes that you may be hoping for. But it's this format, and then people can plug and play and bring in their own thing. And if you want to bring in education, an educational component, you can do that. If you want to bring in something else, you can do that.
As long as it sort of adheres to those three, that cross-section of development, science, and IT.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's outside, then, if it's outside, you want to leave it open, but it's just not going to be something that's going to be, you know, focused on. But if they can find a way to bring it in, and this was the question also of the researchers, the young researchers from Africa or India or the South. Well, if they're coming from substantive disciplines like biology or agriculture or environmental sciences, well, they may not be doing research in IT and their area. But the way to get around that is that they're going to present, what they would do is a self-ethnography of their experience of IT in their research. And present that. And also that's something that we can volume. That is a deliverable. Because we compile all those, and that's either a self-study or papers, or somebody can do a meta-analysis of that stuff. Just bring it all together. So if somebody is coming and they want to talk about their field, instead of just presenting, instead of just presenting, I mean, obviously no one's going to sit there and present their last study on the plants they're growing, because that's not going to make sense. But if they can then bring to bear on what IT means to them and how it's working for them or not working for them. I think if somebody wants to present like, well, IT means nothing to me, come on, come and present that.
Yeah,
as an honest,
good,
I hear about all this stuff about IT, and it has no significance whatsoever. But what it does have significance is that I see my university or my research center spending all this money on IT. And I don't use it. It's a waste of my time and money. They send me to training for it, and it just doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent, so I don't even trust it. Those commentaries I think would be important for ministers to hear.
Yeah.
For all those high-level people that say it's the greatest thing that ever happened. For Bill Gates to hear. That some people actually don't care, and it doesn't, or they don't care either because it doesn't make sense for them, or because the other infrastructure that ITs depend on are so not there that it's meaningless, it's inconsistent. Are you doing the I was going to do that. So that's how we get around that. So that if researchers come, if researchers are going to come, they're going to come and they're going to bring their research. It may not be on their substantive field, but they'll do a paper and have a self-ethnography of their experience with IT and their work.
I don't care.
And I think it's valuable. That does our work for us. Because we don't have to go out there and interview these people. They're interviewing themselves, basically. Was it a good shot? Was it my good side?
Oh, it was great.
Okay.
It was great. It was beautiful.
We catch these mushrooms on film.
I'm trying to get the
Yeah, get
mushrooms.
the food.
I'm trying to get I wanted to get some shots of eating, because anybody see My Dinner with Andre? Anybody a fan of My Dinner with Andre?
Mushroom, yes.
I mean, it's like one of the greatest films ever, I think.
You will get an Oscar.
Huh? But the Polish-Russian waiter cutting the squab in the background is just fabulous. My dinner at the World Summit. My dinner with the World Summit.
We got this. The one example I thought he was going to give was we have this one B-roll.
Oh, you want to be a roll? Okay, fine. Your reaction. Be odd. Like, here, listen really intently.
As we drink more wine.
Do you know
it's easier to be on.
You know who Cy Goodman is, right?
I do.
Yeah, well, guess what? It must be a Georgia Tech thing.
Why does he get drunk?
When we were in Ghana, guess what he did in the camera? He gave it a camera.
on.
Cross-eyed.
He just went.
Puts his tongue.
Well, there you go.
And you can tell him that we got him.
Yes, Cy and I spent a lot of time looking cross-eyed.
Well, it's a Georgia Tech thing. It seems like,
yeah.
but it's great. It's great for us because, of course, then we sample that stuff and put it out of context.
That's right.
No, when we do B-roll, we just say like, okay, Hans, she's talking. Okay, now Greg's talking.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're doing a bad job of it. But anyway, that's what we do.
All right, so you were saying.
So I was saying that we had this. We actually have this on video too, but it's a student at the university who was a recent computer science graduate, and she came out. She was with us in a meeting with the provost, and we must have 10 people in the meeting who were like like top officials in our project, and she came out of there, and we were all just going, man, these guys say the same thing every year. And then she just got furious, and she said, we, the majors, we the students.
She was a computer science major. They didn't have connectivity. But somebody else did.
Like mushrooms.
Others might say.
A lot of mushrooms.
The computer science department did not.
Mustard or?
Yeah, that's mustard, yeah.
Yeah, no, the mushrooms are good. And so she was just saying, we bought a server. We are, did you tell them what?
Yep.
Go ahead.
We bought a server and they wouldn't connect it. We bought a server so that we, the computer science majors of the university, could be on the internet and, you know, just be on the internet and do stuff and learn something and use the training that they're allegedly giving us. And so, and she said, and she's graduated, but she'd been about a year ago, and she said the server's still sitting in the chairman's office.
Now, lucky for them that the student unions had their own connectivity outside of the university system. So outside, they had internet cafes the students had created themselves. In fact, a lot of the professors had to go to those student internet cafes because they didn't have consistent, or they don't have consistent connectivity on the university campus. When we try to now network them and using Wi-Fi solutions, they come back to us and say, no, optic fiber is the way to go. And of course, optic fiber is the way to go, but unfortunately, you can't go directly because they don't allow any wires above wires, which would be the quickest thing. We got to go through their pipes, which make a connection of maybe 100 yards turn into 500 yards. You know, and and Wi-Fi, of course, circumvents that, so they don't want to hear that yet. And this we believe it has to do with the contract, and people who have family who they contract out for this work. You know, so it's a little frustrating. This is in Ghana.
Wow.
I don't think it's any different in many European countries, for that matter.
Maybe so, but they have a lot more options.
What, might it be a reasonable suggestion that at this point we try to imagine ourselves with 3 days or 6 half days or whatever we want and see if we can plug some ideas of sessions on top of some kind of a schedule, just to see whether we either have enough to fill up the stuff or not nearly enough or way too much or something else? Or is that too early?
What we don't know is the number of rooms. We don't exactly know how many.
Well, we're going, as you said, on the assumption
Yeah.
of 200, but
Well, this is structured brainstorming, so you're saying we have 3 days, each a half day, that gives us 6 slots. Let's fill in 6 slots and see what we come up with.
What's it?
I'm sort of assuming all plenaries, you know, I guess we could have breakouts and stuff like that.
Well, we have a plenary, let's say a plenary each day. And a day is normally, I'm using the 4S kind of thinking on this, which is basically 2 sessions morning, 2 sessions afternoon,
Yeah.
coffee breaks, lunch, and 1 plenary each day, so that gives you 3 sessions a day, which is 3 days, which is 18. So multiply
3 sessions a day, 3 days is 18?
3, sorry,
It's American. That's American.
That's Bushism, that's fuzzy Washington arithmetic, goddammit.
yeah.
We're getting close to the
I need
presidentials
84
again.
billion, I need 84 billion.
Hey, Nicholas, did you ever get a chance to vote when you were there? You never voted. You voted? You voted? My God.
I got naturalized
Uh-oh. That's
8
why.
years ago, I guess,
that's why you
because
have
I
that
felt
accent.
I was spending,
So much time.
I'd been living in the
So
States.
much frustration.
Yeah.
You want to make a difference.
But does the voting count in the US? No.
Well, especially not in Florida where you were, so I guess.
No, I was in Massachusetts,
Okay.
where it doesn't count either.
No, I was thinking, you have 3 non-plenary slots each day for 3 days, is 9. But I originally asked for two rooms from the hotel, because most of those hotels have kind of a big ballroom, which you don't need for most of the sessions, but then they have 2 kind of
Okay, but
80-ish rooms, and that's why.
I'd make 2 observations. On 3 days, especially if there's a summit after, I think it would really be a pretty nice step for the people who are going to be there to at least give them a half day off.
No, they will take it.
Every day or one day?
They will take it.
Well, that's what's unfortunate. I think rather than letting them take it, I think maybe meetings are more productive if it's part of the program and people just go fully concentrated when they have to do stuff. Well, that was my first comment, that maybe take a half day off or whatever it is. Number two, not to have too many sessions in parallel, because inevitably you get people who will want to go to both sessions, who will have to make a choice, and maybe you'll be missing some very, very critical input. So sometimes it's a trade-off, but anyway.
If you do it thematically, you know, like you're talking about medical, environmental, those kinds of things, then, at least from my experience, if I see medical and environmental and this and that, and something that's irrelevant, I'd rather go to the ones I want in the area that I want at a time. Second thing is that I think also by doing that, if you make it thematic, you avoid the potential problem of setting in stone something now, like peer-to-peer or grid computing. Then in 2 years, it may have fizzled out. It may just not be what was expected. And so grid computing or peer-to-peer could come up in the context of medical, and it might be a lot more interesting to see it in various contexts rather than
Because it won't be an R&D project, it'll be now field tests of early beta testing.
Right.
So that would be why I would suggest having parallel sessions, but thematic sessions.
Yeah, but in some cases, because for instance, just yesterday, what would you find common between e-governance and ICTs for education? A priori, I find nothing obvious, nothing strikes me. I have to choose between one or the other. Well, I'm back to Lydia from Mozambique. Was a speaker in both of them.
Oh.
And definitely wanted to speak in both of them. And it ends up making a kind of a both of the two sessions are going to lose part of what they would have been had she been in only one session. From the question and answers, from everything. So it's a trade-off. I don't know. This was just an observation like that. But
how ambitious does Wes want to be? How ambitious do we want to be for Wes? How many people is Wes going to commit to bringing to all the way to Tunisia? Because 3 days
I'm trying to find
with something like 24 sessions, that's a pretty big conference.
I'm trying to find 100 people. 100 people, if you divide it over the number of days, and everybody that participates speaks, it's not a lot. It's not a lot of maneuverability.
I thought you mentioned 200.
Well, we get 300 or something like
developing
that.
country people.
What's it going to be?
And
Very good.
and I asked for 200 rooms. I may ask for more now that we've had these discussions. And, Paul and Mohammed seem to think this is a 300, 400 type thing.
Especially Paul, he said code data alone would bring 100.
Yeah,
But again, they would.
But if
better
it's a
bring
separate
them-
thing, it's...
They have to bring them as audience and not speakers, because we can't have 100 co-data people. We can have a couple of sessions for co-data. But if people are willing to contribute, that is, the resources to bring their people and organize a coherent session on the theme of the conference, then if the hotel has space, I think we should do it. But we won't micromanage it, we won't organize it at a very small level. If OECD wants to present, like, give you an example, WSSD, they had the European Commission, which has said they wanted to be involved. The European Commission last time presented their 6 framework program and the involvement of developing countries. And it was great. I mean, they did just a whole day, fantastic, good people and good talks and kind of high tech. But it was, if somebody wants to do that, they probably can't get a day, but 1 or 2 sessions is probably okay. And so that's why I'm reluctant to kind of say you got to fit exactly this model. Smithsonian wants to do something, maybe they should do it. And then we have to prepare for the possibility of multiplying the sessions to fill the available space. We can't go over that because then we're in a second hotel and that's just too much.
But do you want to make a priority in terms of like what sessions are included based on how they conform to the 3 substantive areas? I mean, do you want to do
Yeah,
that?
I
or-
think if they don't conform to the 3 areas, they would not be our highest priority for funding, for the core planning. But if they, I'm just making this up, so don't, you know, I
I'll
can
turn the
change it.
camera off.
It's on the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he says he's
I'm making it up
too,
for the
so-
camera. For if, you know, if they're 2 out of the 3, and somebody's willing to fund it, then.
How about,
Yeah.
how about none out of the 3? They can't be
No, then
included.
they can't be included. What do you think, Leslie? Do you think?
I think that was what we have to focus. It's not on the quantity, but on the quality. But then we have to take into consideration that we will have like 50% of this, hopefully, what we will plan. So we must make involved as many organizations as possible. Then we can see what is the involvement inside, and then we will filter and make it complete. So that's my opinion. But well, we have to provide as many possibilities for all organizations that wants to participate. But then we have to be considered that it's the quality is the most important aspect.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah. An organization that comes in with a very coherent proposal, an integrated program with speakers that fit into the themes of the conference, that would get first priority.
What I was more addressing was, we've spoken of a number of possible programs, formats, and whatever. And just with that, I would think it's enough to start laying a foundation at least and see how that format, or these formats, fit on top of each schedule, and what they leave available, and what they don't leave available. Just really just an academic exercise, nothing more than that. Not in any way committing to anything, for sure not. But just so we get an idea, well, hey, if we divide it into X sessions and assume this, that, then this is what, with what we've talked about so far, we could fill up, or we might fill up. And therefore, this would be what would be left. Is that too much? Is that not enough? I mean, certainly, from all this talk right now, I don't have a clue as to what we have even potentially filled up over 3 days. I don't know.
Okay, well, let's write them down.
If I had another
Start with
We
adapter,
need a whiteboard.
if I had another adapter, we'd use the bio, I just don't have another adapter.
Starting wants to do a follow-up session.
Okay, so CERN does, we have a total of what, 21 slots, right? 18 plus 3. 18
No,
subsessions
I
and
was-
3 plenaries.
I was jumping ahead on the number of rooms. We don't, I can't say the rooms until we say the hotel, and we haven't finalized the hotel.
Well, let's
Assume we have
Yeah, let's
2
see.
rooms, and assume that we use, for the introduction, for the
Freedom on every
opening,
day.
we're gonna use everybody in 1 room, that's a half day. Is that pretty much, does that sound okay? Half day opening with everybody in 1 room?
2 hours. 2 hours.
The assumption
Quarter
is
Not
day.
half day.
Okay, quarter day.
every day has 1 plenary and 3 double sessions. 1 plenary, 3 doubles, 1 plenary, 3 doubles. That works out to
Okay.
21.
We came out to 22, but maybe we were doing some strange math. We were actually in France.
That's
when-
clock arithmetic.
No, we were in France when that we
Postmodern
calculated.
arithmetic, you know. Because when you look closely, is it 20, 21, 22, the more closely you look at the process, you
It was
don't
tough,
really
you know.
what it is. It's a
I was
rhetorical
dizzy.
strategy.
I was dizzy.
Okay, so,
Okay.
that leaves us 3, I must have messed up my, no, because some of them are divided. All of them,
I think this problem is too complex.
yes,
How do you divide 3 days up into 4 sessions?
I don't know.
So you
okay,
probably
let's-
want to treat the 3 plenaries separately from the 18.
Yes, let's work with
Right,
18.
so let's go on 18. So 1 might be on grid
You
computing?
can go around the table.
Well,
No,
one might be on new, recent developments or new developments or the state of the art or the cutting edge, one might be on cutting edge stuff.
But do you think that would be only one of these 18? I would think that's of larger interest.
What maybe I should suggest that we, at the beginning, we've been talking about the title. So this is maybe the past, present, and the future.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
So let's divide our 3 days for the past, present, and future. And this first day, we will talk about past, and we will talk about present, and then we will talk about future. So I think it will be easier to find,
Areas.
Why not?
something.
Yeah.
That's only a suggestion.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can look at the, I'm gonna turn this on myself just because, you can look at the past and you can look at cutting edge because you can look at the process of cutting edge too. I mean,
Your
the
glasses don't look nice. You gotta look at yourself this way. 'cause
That's
otherwise
correct.
you just see your
Correct.
glasses.
That is so you can still do or you can do it this way. You could either do past, present, and
Wonderful
future
couple, the two
that way, and
differences.
that limits you a little bit. But I think it's good because it gives every plenary could really have that theme as a day. So today we're dealing with this, today we're dealing with that, and then all the breakout sessions. But you can also look at one session that just deals with cutting edge or innovation. And in that one session, you could map out the past and how these innovations happen and what environments they happen and who were the leaders. And then a present cutting edge in the same session. And then also then how it applies to the development, which is what we're saying is the future. And so you could do it that way too. That gives you more flexibility within a session, and it also gives you a through line in a session. So somebody goes to a session, and they really leave that session knowing, wow, that's the way innovation was then, this is the way innovation is now, and this is how it applies to the developing world, because the developing world really is then trying to catch up with now. So I think that works. The other way, past, think about that. How are we going to fill a whole day with past?
That's what I was.
Yeah, I know. We would
Yeah,
exactly.
The same.
Exactly, but I was
moment.
thinking, that because I had thought the same thing. I said, let's do past. But
Yeah.
so let's imagine the past, and it's like, okay,
Well, these are integrated.
they are integrated. That's why if we did sessions and integrate past, present, and future within sessions, then we're much more flexible. I think we're more flexible. And then you include everybody. Then you also can include, innovators, academicians or researchers, and also policy, because you want every session really to be all these ears and voices in there as well, I think. And so every session then becomes an integration of all the themes of the conference, and I think it gives you flexibility, because you may not get all 3 groups in one session or all 3 perspectives, past, present, and future. But if you start mixing them in, you have the potential then to be really flexible. And then we have another structure into the mix. So when somebody like Smithsonian or CERN or anybody wants to bring code data, you say, look, guys, you can pick any topic, but deal with the past, present, and future within this definition, and then make sure you have policy guys, you've got academics, and you have innovators. And no matter how you define
That's the
that.
hard case, but I mean, it's a great.
But
idea.
that would be the ideal, 3 by 3 within every session, which I think every substantive topic can be parsed up that way, if you really did it, right? Now, you might get just, 2 and 1 or 3, but that's the spirit, so that people have an integrated organic vision, and it makes it much more flexible in terms of how you structure
And so they can have a
things.
session on basically anything they want, as long as they got to integrate these different things.
Yeah,
within
as-
But
the
in a
session.
1.5-hour session?
Well,
You
I-
want to go through past, present,
2
and
hours.
future in
Well-
each of them?
well-
Well, 2 hours plus people that come
Hour
late.
45.
Hour
I think
45.
I think the plenary of that day every plenary then could be sort of a bigger version of it and deal with the more overarching issues, and so you don't have to go over it again. You don't have to go over it again in every session. You don't have to go. So if some major things.
Get that camera back here.
Oh, why not? Let's go over it again.
No, but I mean, if every major theme
Blow
is.
smoke into the camera.
Wait, hold it.
I haven't
Don't
seen
drop
it.
it. Hold
You're
it.
in the way.
Just don't drop it.
Where are you
Don't drop
going
it.
with?
I
Go
hold
over
it,
here.
but don't drop
Just
it.
don't do it.
You can't pay
No, it's
for,
connected?
you can't pay for people from federal
No, it's
agencies
just, it happened. So
If they're working.
to
It
come.
goes to 60.
Yeah, and you can't,
So we're
then you
doing-
probably can't do it to influence policy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Oh,
So
really?
I also have a job, you see, so it's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
How I
honestly,
invented the internet.
Well,
It's so great.
if you do, say you were to have a session, Al Gore, Tim Berners-Lee.
I think Tim Berners-Lee needs to come.
No, I don't think so. I think
I know, you-
definitely not. I
but
actually
see,
not.
but see, the thing
And
is-
I think Greg
I
supported,
absolutely-
Greg agrees with me. He
But see,
can't
I
even
think-
speak English.
We'll be right back.
Oh, Tim Berners-Lee?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can have him.
Here, you want to
Rick
bring
wants
the
to
camera
bring him back.
upstairs?
Well, yeah, why not? You wanna go upstairs?
Just
and
speaking
smoke?
to
All
us.
the evil smoke, well, we could smoke down here, but in this room.
Okay, I wanna tell you
It's
that,
the-
I wanna tell you that, well, it's okay, because I think it's illegal to smoke here, you're like.
Well, you know, but
Look at the
there's no
ashtrays.
smoking, but here's no ventilation.
Yeah,
so it's-
it doesn't bother me, does it bother anyone?
No,
It bothers you?
It's okay
Great.
when you go upstairs.
Okay, well, then maybe,
I don't care.
I wanna let you know
We're
the
clean
dessert is,
people.
when you go up there, take a look at the dessert.
You know what they say in California?
What?
Having a smoking section in a restaurant is like having a peeing section in a pool, okay?
Exactly.
Oh, which is
I
nice.
agree.
You mean there's not?
You mean there's a section in the pool? I just thought it was crazy.
I've been transgressing the laws of
Really thought that was the deep end.
Okay, we're not gonna talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
small one, it's warm, that's fine.
And I'll follow up with everyone and, you know, essentially let you know our involvement. But it's,
More dessert for
it's
us.
looking good.
Yeah, we could
Now, there is a,
Well, I think.
the WSIS, you know, the alternative outside the WSIS, there was another.
Yeah, we sees, that's a
Yeah,
great.
they're having a party tonight.
Oh, really, where?
It's at 10 p.m.
Excellent.
at the UC.
Alrighty, I'll be in touch.
Is it-
Oh,
is it in
New Zealand. A great place for parties.
But where is it? Is it in Geneva?
Yeah, it's back across the tracks from the train station where the Whites.
Because we never got a chance to go to the We Sees thing. They're saying the We Sees, I mean, that We Sees
it's
is
around.
doing a big party.
Party.
They had a good event last night where it was a spontaneous, they assembled in front of WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, and they projected onto the side of the building a short movie by sort of alternative media artists that was a critique of intellectual property.
What about
It
us?
was just great.
How come we weren't invited?
They actually
How
handed
come
out
you're projecting your movie on top of the building?
on the side of it.
We could have, we had the stuff.
Next time they don't invite us, we're projecting ours at the same time as they
Okay.
project theirs.
We're gonna project it on them.
Yeah.
We're gonna use their bodies.
Everyone will be projecting on each other.
Exactly. We're gonna line them up and they're gonna be our screen.
War of the
Well,
Worlds.
hey, tonight at the party, come project it on
Yeah,
the party.
yeah.
Now, there were alternative activities going on during this conference, and, you know, that
I
would be
didn't
of interest to you.
They were burning newspapers.
Where?
We
Well,
saw one thing at the
I
train
just heard
station.
about it.
The
They were
train
burning these
station.
newspapers.
But where? I mean, you know, we didn't see any, was there protesters?
I heard-
Cyber rebels. What's
I heard the
Can I
buses
see it?
detoured around the buses detoured around the protests.
Yeah, these are the guys.
Were they downtown or out?
They were by the Plexpo.
Okay.
But are they part of the conference?
No, I mean, the We Sees does, We Sees actually,
And
well,
WSIS is funded by the main summit.
yeah, we actually, it's like, you ever see The Matrix? You ever see The Matrix? You know, Neo, in the end, Neo finds out that he's a rebel. But in
He's
fact,
created by
he's
the
created by the Matrix, because they need a rebel to continue a myth.
Wait a minute, I haven't seen that.
I'm sorry. No, it's been out. You have no right.
That was in Matrix too.
That was a Matrix
Just-
2. No, that was a Matrix 2. You have
I
no
haven't
rights.
even seen Matrix 2.
Well, and it's been out for a long time.
Well, so what? It's time
So, no, there's no.
No, I live in the fourth.
But the thing is that WSIS anticipated this, and so they created a group
Uh-huh.
as the opposition to like show that they was to fulfill a role. The Matrix is not just a great movie; it's a metaphor for life.
The what?
Matrix
I
was
saw
already
it first, and I don't like it very much.
It scared you, didn't it?
All of them are. No, it's-
Oh, I
Come on, admit it, you're
thought the first one was
scared.
okay.
You're very scared.
I
You're
mean, it had
shaking.
some brilliant martial arts
shaking.
scenes, though it was totally fake, but it was brilliant anyway.
Well, let me
And
plug
really
the third-
fun when the guy's running up and down the
Well,
walls.
let me plug the
No.
third one. The third one, the second one is so-so, but the third one,
This
the
is great,
final
because
scene
Matrix needs to be.
is like,
It's not
you know,
a great
the,
film, but-
if you ever saw
Now you
Marvel
ruined the third
comics
one.
or,
No, no.
you know, has like
Okay, you should
one
be
of the
careful about the
greatest.
third one, because he didn't see that.
No, I'm just saying it has one of the greatest action fight scenes at the end ever filmed. It's good.
Wow.
Yeah. So that, at least for that one
Wow.
scene, you know, you can get into it.
Maybe-
Maybe computer special effects.
Well, not
Yeah,
really,
totally
because it looks so real. It really looks.
Maybe when I will have some time, but I'm not really looking forward. I prefer the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Lord of the Rings. Well, that's also very good.
I only got to see the first one. I'd so much like to see the others.
Some would say that.
Where do you
know,
live?
And in Paris.
Oh,
Oh, come on, you can get those films at Trieste.
in Trieste?
Why
Oh,
not?
yes. You can't get anything
Well,
in
just
Trieste.
You download them off the internet, man.
I love it.
Come to the
They
theater,
have-
to the cinema, you just get
They have high bandwidth, it's the International Center for Theoretical.
They could probably do
They
it.
sit around and watch The Matrix all
You know,
day.
they were infected by a
The
worm
director's
just a
cut.
few months ago. They had the CIA show up there because the infection was so bad. Everybody flipped out, upside
Oh,
down.
the CIA.
Don't know. But they busted CIA or FBI, but one of
Yeah,
these.
because it was a CIA worm and they had to come.
And they had to come fish it out.
Gotta go get it.
Maybe, it could well
Put it
be
back in
for
its
all we know.
cage.
But yeah, it blew hundreds of machines, infected all the servers, it was a disaster.
How it appeared? What?
You got me, I don't know, I know that it's called a worm, and I know that it really wreaked havoc across the place for 48 hours.
See, my computer is down. I don't know why still. You know, I must give it to reparation.
And now,
Hopefully
then
it's not
downloading anything off the web, forget it, there's firewalls so
Really?
far up the gazoo that
Huh.
I can't even imagine.
What
What
was
does
the
everyone-
worm, do you know?
No. I don't,
The
I'm
name
not a
of it?
technician.
Shall we go up for dessert and look at that?
So, do we go up as that?
Yeah, we go together,
Oh,
and then sort of look at,
service.
we choose our own
Yeah,
dessert.
let's just make sure that the crowd is down, because there
It was
a
very
big-
To bring some dessert because I don't like to have problems. You know, like I'm taking. I don't like it. You know, someone's paid for that.
Pay
Let's
for
just
what?
ask the
You know,
waiter.
for the buffet upstairs.
No, we
No,
paid for the dessert.
we paid for the
as
dessert.
part of the meal.
Okay.
The
Yeah, no.
dessert.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But not-
dessert.
You can't have a lot of shellfish with your dessert.
Yeah, you're not allowed to have the
No,
shell.
no, no, no.
I know, no,
That's
that's,
on the
the
other
dessert,
book.
all that dessert we can choose from.
As
It's
long
part,
as
it's part of
you
the
stick
menu.
Okay.
It's part of
to
the
high
menu.
sugar content, you can have anything you want, as much as you want.
I didn't understand the point of your comment.
He thought we were just going up to.
We're gonna like take
Oh,
your
to steal
dessert.
it, you mean?
No, just take. I don't know if we are allowed to go
Yeah,
upstairs
yeah,
and
we are.
take it.
No, that was part of our meal.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. No.
And it's-
Yeah, he told us that when somebody asked, he said, yeah, you can get the dessert.
Well, shall we, or shall we wait a little bit?
You wanna scout it out, Wes?
Let me just check and see if there's a line.
Because I got 5 more minutes on this
9
table,
p.m.
we can definitely fill it with things, with fun things.
This guy is gone already.
Chamonix.
I was gonna say, 'cause I think you
Oh,
said
thank
that.
you.
oh,
If
said
you're
something
gonna go
really
all the
good
way
on
up to
the
Chamonix.
tape, and I was gonna ask
Okay.
you guys to ask.
If not,
Say it again?
The other
I'll
place?
give you a couple of other places.
A horse from my country. or-
My country for a horse?
Okay, we can't have,
You can't have what? I was talking ski just now.
no, switch back.
He was saying rooms, you're saying horse, your own creativity.
Yeah, which
being
is-
used
Can't
against you,
have
by
the
the way.
hotel.
His own
can't have the
creativity
rooms
used against
determine
him.
the format of the.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you can or can't, but that's kind of what we're doing, and I...
But wait,
Yes,
you
indeed!
can't have the ideas of our conference driven by the material foundation,
Focus!
substructure
Focus!
of the
Zoom in,
society.
zoom in, oh,
Certainly not.
Hail, hail!
Very good, that was very natural. That was very
I'm looking at
natural.
the quality of the content in the beginning of the meal when we weren't soused.
I'd like to see, when your
But our
son
ideas are
sees,
so good now, they are so good.
We just closed.
when your son sees this, I want to see his criticism of it.
Yeah, there-
No, he won't do that.
Most
He'd
problematic
be like-
meetings we ever had was when we had like a hotel that could basically serve 300 very well. And the meeting organizer got, I don't know if you remember Cambridge, the meeting organizer got nervous a week before the deadline for the papers. All the papers come in at the last minute, and they always do, and you know that. So
I'm doing
he's
pretty well if
nervous.
I get it in Netherlands.
Yeah. And so he gets nervous, he extends the deadline for another month. So instead of 300 people,
Destroys everyone's
it's now
lives.
600 people. Because of course it happens again at the end of the second deadline. All the first deadline papers and the second deadline. And now we're having a meeting of 600 in a hotel for 300. And nothing but trouble. Nothing but trouble.
Where is this?
That was in Cambridge that happened. So, you know, it can happen the other way too, where you're planning this really big meeting and you're so real tight.
Wait, wasn't that Hugh?
When you drive into
Yeah.
Hugh did that? And he's down in Georgia Tech now.
Oh,
Wait,
that's right.
I can't talk about people behind their back on film.
It's not film.
This is a really bad idea.
It's not film, it's video.
I didn't know. I don't know.
It's video, it's not film, so it's okay.
Hugh did a
We can
great,
post
It's
it on the internet
okay.
now.
It's easier.
Hugh did a great job on that meeting.
Man, he did a good
He
job.
did a great job, and let's not forget that he was #1 persona non grata on the list of anti-American academics that was produced by
Oh, by the wife?
George
by-
Bush's wife.
No, it was Cheney's wife.
Yeah.
Cheney's wife. At the plenary in Forest, did you go to Forest?
I have to see Atlanta one.
Well, in Wisconsin, they had people getting up talking about that, and oh, it's tight, oh, I'm totally like tight now. But people were like going that they actually wrote in, or they called her people and started saying, put me on the list. And that's how she realized it was just a complete fraud. When people started asking to be on that list, it was a badge of honor to do that. You know, it's just a different world now. That's civil society. Can you imagine that?
No, it's a
The
different
vi-
world in Washington DC.
It is, but the vice president's wife puts a blacklist really of scientists who are not favorable to American foreign policy, or not American or patriotic enough. And the scientists, so within an association, most of these scientists are 4S or STS type people who are critical of science. They get together and they literally, as a group, call, put me on the list. They want to be on this list, and basically, that's the power of science. And I'm sure one of those scientists is blind, it's possible. It's possible, or maybe studying blind. That's fine. No, I know it sounds cold and heartless to me, but it's because I know that I feel the innate power of it and how it scares. It scares people to deny it. Scares people enough to marginalize those kind of groups, and it's only because they haven't been able to organize well enough. That which has been the benefit of the government and private sector having these kind of communication abilities. That the civil society now has those abilities to get data, to use it for their benefit, just as easy. I mean, free information also means free information that people can use it in the benefit of other people that go against private interests, go against government interests. So it works both ways, and that's civil society. I know it's scary. I was a California beach boy.
They're not a funding source.
No, but they can get money from foundations, so they get a lot of money.
That's not from them. They're getting it from other sources.
Sure they are, but when an NGO comes to a country, they got $1 million. That's still a lot of money that can make changes in a small country. But in the United States, when a small grassroots environmental group can get support from Greenpeace, get some funding from like the Mellencamp Foundation,
Okay.
they can.
Those are people who are really dedicated to the cause.
I'll get it. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are civil society. Now, would you say they're not powerful?
It's big business.
I know that, but it's their civil society. But that's.
It's the Republicans that really have to.
But
Because they have
they are. But what I'm trying to say is, if you think the Republican Party has been powerful, that's the potential of civil society.
But the Democrats, on the other hand,
I know.